Hi, so I'm Mary Stringham, and we're going to be presenting on a post-COVID-19 fashion manifesto.
Hi, and I'm Justin, and I'm currently a MFA Fashion Design and Society student at Parsons, and I have a previous degree in Sustainable Environmental Design and with a focus in architecture from Berkeley in
And
California.
I'm an MA Fashion Studies student from Parsons School of Design as well, and I have a BA in Art History and Visual Studies from the University of Utah too. And so this presentation is sort of a collaboration, like the other pairs of students who just presented end of year project about, we were reflecting on sort of what fashion education and design would look like post-COVID-19. It originally started as a postmodern fashion manifesto. We were interested in, what the future of fashion was going to be like, and it's something that we were really curious and interested in, and ended up shifting as COVID-19 started to hit across the globe, and we pivoted to what would be going on during and then post this pandemic in terms of education and design in the realm of fashion.
So we looked to some influential scholars and designers. Lee Edelcourt, and in 2014, she published the Anti-Fashion Manifesto. She's a trend forecaster and also leads some courses at Parsons. We also looked at designers Dieter Rams and Massimo Osti, who created Stone Island. And I think that both of these designers, who I'm particularly passionate about, also really see their relevance today because of their sincerity and their approach to design, which is how they see modernity, and which is really how objects take their shape after their function is decided, and less is really more in a time like this. So these are the kind of the important people that guided our research and our approach to this.
So this ended up resulting, our conversations, our phone calls, just Justin's design practice, it resulted in this manifesto that we created. And so we just wanted to show you what we ended up working on. And then we're gonna break it down for you because this is hard to read and go through in sort of a presentation format. So this is just what our end result was. So we're going to be focusing on two sections, education and design. And so for education, something that Lee Edelcourt claimed in her Anti-Fashion Manifesto was that design education, and some other scholars have also claimed this, that design education tends to only create star designers, and they're not producing anything revolutionary right now, a harsh critique. And so if you agree with those sentiments, we're sort of arguing that we believe post-pandemic, this is going to be a different case, and even during the pandemic, because students are forced to rethink and relearn and remake in entirely different ways. They have to become resourceful in their materials and how they recontextualize those. They're forced to, they no longer have access to fabric stores, in-person instruction. They have to make do with what they have, whether that be digging through their closets to see what old t-shirts they can repurpose or upcycle, or looking at unconventional materials around the house or from the grocery store, whatever it may be. And something else, Justin sort of compared it to like a RuPaul Drag Race workshop, like trying to make do with what you have. And we think that this is going to instill a type of like resourcefulness within these designers to create sort of revolutionary garments. And so something else that
And
we've
kind of
noticed,
find infinite potential in really banal and just mundane things.
yeah,
We
totally,
see a lot
exactly.
of the things around us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so something else that we've noticed is that there's this transition from the experiential to the virtual, no longer in a physical learning space where you can have in-person critiques and model fittings. It's now everything's online. And this is sort of interesting as we now live in sort of an image-based society, with things like social media, Instagram, image is king. And we're seeing that as designers already have to create for this image-based society, they have to even more now, these student designers, as they're learning They have to create for Zoom calls. They have to take photos in their apartments of their garments and their work and what they're creating. And so we just thought that was sort of an interesting, extra push towards such an image-heavy world that we live in. And they also have to learn a disruptive attitudes towards these larger systems that are crumbling before them, that seem to be sort of these infinite, formidable institutions in fashion, whether that be fashion houses or big conglomerates. They're now realizing that post graduation, they need to be more flexible and differently thinking in how they might pursue their careers. So, and now Justin's going to talk about design a little bit.
Yeah. So with my own personal design, I've always had an affinity for recontextualizing familiar signs and images and forms and subverting them. And I think it comes from my also bleak upbringing. But with this project, I was specifically looking at recontextualizing maybe functions or functional objects and seeing parallels between fields. And I think that after this project that I did during quarantine, I really see the value of cross-collaborating between other fields to see parallels between materials and how materials can be used in new technological ways, and to inject chemistry or science into artisanal processing, craftsmanship, and heritage approach to making. And just really quickly, here's some of Massimo Osti's work for Stone Island. And during this time, he was really seen as it was seen as a functional revolution of the 90s. And his work is really seen as urban armor, which I think is really interesting and really relevant to today. We need things that are beautiful and that are really functional, but also really relevant to facing the contemporary climate of what's going on with COVID, with all of that. And I really think that this urban armor idea is quite interesting right now. And so with my own work, I took this and pushed it some more, maybe with the silhouette. It was designed, first of all, the process was thinking about dressing and undressing with just clothes that I already had, and then cutting them up again, and then reusing these jerseys and these tights to make a new silhouette. And I was really trying to portray this idea of maybe domesticity, and also looked further into textiles on the next slide. I was thinking about a sense of maybe voyeurism, of how like during quarantine and isolation, all I could really think about was just being stuck in my room, but also the hope of looking through a window and what's going on around me through this window, and maybe my neighbors looking through their windows and wondering the same thing as well. So I was hole punching these water bottles, these transparent plastics from lunch containers and these TV lunches I was having, and then understanding and retesting how to trap dyes and pigments underneath these plastic bits. And so I was really just inspired by these ideas of recontextualizing plastic and these bits to create something quite artisanal, like sequins, and bonded also with Chargeurs, sponsored by a French bonding company. And so I think that, yeah, I was really just trying to echo this idea of technological bonding and coding, and so I think that what I really see in the future with design is hopefully additional collaboration between people with other fields. And I would like to see that in my own education as well, finishing my last year on the MA, like maybe different ideas to achieve this idea of urban armor, of rubber coating things, of brushing things with emery, of resining, of siliconing, of oil finishing, bonding, dyeing. So hopefully, in terms of just back with what Mary was saying with education, additional projects where we can actually collaborate with people from different cultures and different fields to push these very technically strong finishings for our idea of urban armor. In the next slide, we just want to quickly summarize with the Art Manifesto. Mary, please.
Yeah, so basically moving towards a more image-based society, the virtual resourcefulness and recontextualization of new materials, and then everything that Justin just said on hybrid design and multifunctionality, sort of adjusting to the new world that we are going to be living in, the new normal. So thank you.
Yeah, and local markets and current needs. I don't think that this project would have really come about if it weren't for the climate that we are in. And so it was really about being responsive and adapting to what was happening globally, locally, and also our current needs, which are something that you can just really, really functional, but also beautiful as well.
Mary,
Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you so much for your presentation and for sharing your project with us. We have a comment and question from Elsa Skjold from Copenhagen. So she says she's moved by your ideas and presentations and currently revising completely the Fashion MA here in Copenhagen, following many of the ideas you talk about. So I would like to hear if you could wrap up what you would dream of if you were to invent the best possible fashion design education for the future.
Sort of, I think exactly what Justin was saying, that sort of a future where there's more interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary collaboration. I think that's something that we, throughout the process of this project and throughout the semester, we were sort of discussing how there was sort of a lack of that. You know, these designers are sort of taught to design by themselves for themselves. And so we're sort of hoping that with the future and this new flexibility and innovation with how people are approaching design now, that might be sort of the future of it. Justin, I don't know if you have any other thoughts or ideas on that.
Definitely. I think that I'm quite confident with my image making and my just sensibility with like silhouettes and maybe a traditional sense of what glamour is, maybe from a superficial level even. And I would really be further inspired to be able to collaborate with chemists and scientists that can help me with dyeing and material research and to really push something functionally strong, and so that the form would take its function. And I think it really goes in line with the designers that we brought up earlier, who do just that. And so their work is often referenced as minimalist, or like less is more, and an urban armor, as we were saying. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation again. And yeah, it's great actually to see how such collaboration of theorists and practitioners actually go very well.